Hey, what's up, you guys? Connie here with Incredible Realty Group in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina metro market. And in today's video, I want to chime in with my 2 cents on today's hot topic. It's been all the buzz today and probably will be for the remainder of the spring and into the early summer. So, as you may have already heard, the National Association of Realtors reaches agreement to resolve nationwide claims brought by home sellers. So, what does this all mean and where are we right now? So, my first thought is that we don't really know a lot right now. And this settlement is subject to court approval. So it has not been approved. So no changes have been implemented. And I think some of us may have jumped the gun a little bit and we're out here with our commentary and all the things when nothing has changed. And so we may be getting worked up in areas where we don't necessarily need to be. And then in other areas where we just need to pivot and adapt to the changes that are coming our way. I'm not necessarily overly concerned about this, and I'll share with you a few of those reasons in just a few moments. But my overarching thought as of this moment is to take a deep breath and let's just slow down, relax, and not panic. That's the first thing. In North Carolina, I feel like we've been doing some of these things for years anyway, so the change may be a little smoother for us in states that operate in similar ways as we do. So some of these things are not big surprises, while some might seem a little bit overwhelming because there are so many unknowns. But I think we kind of just need to wait to see where the chips are going to fall and what changes are going to be implemented and what industry shifts that may come out of this, as far as maybe even financing and mortgages and things like that because of these changes that we quite don't know about. So a lot of this is just speculation. So let's talk about probably one of the biggest points I think that NAR has agreed to. And this would be one of the bigger ones is that, and I'm going to read it to you in black and white right over here. So NAR has agreed to put in place a new MLS rule prohibiting offers of broker compensation on the MLS. So decoupling that broker compensation, right? This would mean that offers of broker compensation could not be communicated via the MLS, but they can continue to be an option consumers can pursue off MLS through negotiation and consultation with real estate professionals. And that's kind of how it's already been in some places, even though there's full transparency with the percentage or the amount of buyer agency compensation in MLS, which is also syndicated to all of the websites that share MLS data, such as my website, Incredible Realty Group, or ConnieWoodRealtor.com, or any other real estate agent or firm or brokerage that syndicates MLS data. So the data comes from, I call MLS the mother, comes from the mother, and then it gets syndicated to all of the children. That would be your Zillows and Redfins and Realtor.com and IncredibleRealtyGroup.com and ConnieWoodRealtor.com and SallySue.com or whomever that is sharing this data. The hub, which is MLS, currently sends out the data of the property details and photography and images and videos, as well as transparency as far as what the buyer agent compensation is in my market in North Carolina. I don't know what's happening in some of the other parts of the country, but that's how it is here. So if we were to remove compensation from MLS from a buyer agency perspective, so then that means that not only do other agents not see it, consumers won't see it. And there are a couple of things that I think this could mean and what can change, but I think it's safer for us to wait until we know exactly how this all fleshes out and what the changes will be before we start like just over speculating on what may or may not happen. So that's the biggest thing. Number one is that we will no longer have compensation for buyer agents in MLS. And that would be a pretty significant change. But the other thing that I want to talk about is that, let me find it where it talks about, okay, this one. Further, NAR has agreed to enact a new rule that require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into written agreements with their buyers. This makes me scratch my head because we've been using buyer agency agreements for a minute, right? And it's something that we practice, or I practice in my firm and my agents. Every single buyer client that we work with will be in a buyer agency agreement. And so one of the things that I do, I teach these monthly home buyer classes, and I read people their like real estate Miranda rights. And I got the whole, dramatic stop. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a negotiating setting if I am not representing you. So, and then I display the working with real estate agents disclosure as we're supposed to upon substantial contact. And then I go through that and I explain to people who represents whom in a real estate transaction. And it's pretty seamless. I do it with every single client. I do it in my home buyer presentations so that people are on notice not to overshare in public settings, not to overshare your personal, private, deep, dark secrets with real estate agents that you're meeting on the internet, because that's a big part of, I think, the overall issue too, is that consumers have greater access than we've ever had before with the internet, and we're calling, we're texting, we're reaching out to real estate agents, and we're finding ourselves in these conversations where we're oversharing too soon. In North Carolina, we are required to give you this document. And I want to read parts of it to you. So if you're in another state and you don't practice it this way, or if you are in our state and you're an agent and you're not using this every single time, I really don't know why you wouldn't be and why you have not been. So this is something that is just a part of the way that I do business. I send it out via email. I send it out when I get leads that come in that, hey, I need you to read this document. And so the top of this form says, this form is required for use in all sales transactions, including residential and commercial. Working with real estate agents, disclosure for buyers. And there's also one for sellers as well. But in this video, I'm talking primarily about buyer agency. And so I'm not going to read everything to you verbatim, but the top of this, where it's in black, bold border, important. This form is not a contract. The word not is underlined. This is not a contract. So we don't want to use this document to scare people away. You meet an agent online and then all of a sudden they're whipping out this document and you're like, I'm not signing anything. We just met. But it is a consumer protection document. And it also provides some valuable information about agency relationships, how they work, and who represents whom in a real estate transaction. This form is not a contract. Signing this disclosure only means you have received it. I did my job. I provided you with this document. I explained it to you and I gave it to you for you to review on your own as well. In addition, there's a place for you to sign, print your name and date, acknowledging that I gave you this disclosure. This should be happening with every single North Carolina real estate agent that you are interacting with upon substantial contact. What does substantial contact mean? For me, that means as soon as we say hello, you are getting this at hello, okay? Because before you know it, we're best friends, we're having a great conversation, and you're telling me your deep, dark secrets. And so I need you to have this before we get to that point. And I want to protect myself and I want to make sure that you're not oversharing before I've had the opportunity to give this to you. That's why I'm giving it to you very early in our relationship. So on the first date, you are getting this document. I'm going to put a disclosure on it. You don't get a ring, but you do get a disclosure. So this document says, in a real estate sales transaction, it is important that you understand whether an agent represents you. Real estate agents are required to 1, review this form with you at first substantial contact before asking for or receiving your confidential information, and 2, give you a copy after you sign it. This is for your own protection. Do not share, not underlined, any confidential information with the real estate agent or assume that the agent is acting on your behalf until you have entered into an agreement with the agent to represent you. Otherwise, the agent can share your confidential information with others. Okay. Excuse me. So we are not oversharing your personal information out here in the public, right? In the streets, as we like to say. But the best example that I can give you of what we mean by this is, let's just say hypothetically, we meet. I don't give you this document and we're having a conversation. You're feeling real comfortable and you just like me, right? And you tell me you received an inheritance and you have $500,000 to spend on a house. And then you decide, okay, I really don't like that lady anymore. I'm going to go find another agent. I'm going to work with someone else. Or maybe you met someone else on the internet and now you told them. And now you've been on xyz.com and you were on the phone with an agent or you exchanged chats or some type of messaging. And you told them, yeah, I got this money from my aunt, passed away, and I received an inheritance. I had $500,000. Now you told 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 agents, however many agents you shared this information with. You decide not to work with me. Now I have a listing on 123 Any Street. You walk in with your other agent that you decided you did want to work with. Well, guess what? I remember when you told me that you inherited $500,000 from Aunt Susie, who unfortunately has passed away. And now, guess what I'm going to tell my seller? Hey, we need to play hardball. She's got $500,000. They're thinking about presenting an offer, or maybe you have presented an offer and you lowballed us and you're acting like, you don't have very much money outside of maybe what you might be borrowing from the bank. But I remember you, and I remember that you told me that you had $500,000. Now, this is an over-exaggerated example, but this is the type of oversharing that can happen when you're not aware of who represents whom, and that we're not obligated to keep your information confidential as far as in a setting pertaining to real estate. Am I going to go out and tell the whole world that you receive $500,000 inheritance? No, that would just not be a cool thing or a proper thing to do. But will I tell my seller? Absolutely, I would. So that's just one example of oversharing before you've decided that you're going to be working with this person, or you don't know if they're going to be representing you. And so it also has us check which types of agency relationship might we enter into with you. We may be a buyer agent, a dual agent, a designated agent, or are you going to be an unrepresented buyer or not? So this breaks down the definitions of each and every form of relationship that we can enter into. And so you need to understand this and be clear on it. And also you can ask additional questions. And there's another document that you can either download yourself, or you can ask the real estate agent who provided you with the disclosure to provide you with the brochure with the questions and answers on agency relationships and working with a real estate agent. So this is very important. So one, in North Carolina, we're providing you with this document upon substantial contact. With me, it's at the very beginning. At this point, we've gotten friendly and we've decided that maybe we're going to take it to the next step. And guess what? Bam, I'm going to ask you to enter into an exclusive buyer agency agreement with me, where I'm going to represent you as a buyer agent. Okay. And in this buyer agency agreement, it spells out the location, where, what type of property, the general location, the terms of the agreement. And guess what? Look, item number 4, paragraph 4. What does this talk about? Compensation of the firm. So your agreement is with the firm. I will be an agent of the firm. And so the firm, meaning the brokerage that I work for, or that agent works for, acknowledges receipt of what? A non-refundable retainer in the amount of XYZ, which shall or shall not be credited toward the compensation due to the firm under this agreement. Some agents charge retainer fees. Say it's $500. Hey, I'm going to do a lot of upfront work for you, and the only way I get compensated is if you actually purchase a home and close on that home. Otherwise, I may work with you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months and never make one single penny. And a lot of people do not understand that real estate agents are not employees. We do not get a check on Friday. We do not get a check once a month or even once a quarter or once a year unless you purchase a home that we've represented you on and you close on that home and the deed, the title is transferred into your name. Otherwise, we never get paid. paid. But we can charge you a retainer fee. And if you do close on a transaction, we may credit that money back to you, or maybe we won't. So this is something that some agents do and some agents don't. There's no fixed set amount. It could be whatever amount that particular firm decides that they want to charge as a retainer, or it can be zero. But let's look at this part right here, because remember back here when we talked about NAR has agreed to enact a new rule that will require MLS participants working with buyers to enter into written agreements with their buyers. Well, we're already entering into an exclusive buyer agency agreement here in North Carolina. I don't know what y'all doing in these other places, but in North Carolina, we're doing this. So let's talk about compensation. Alrighty, a buyer agrees that firm's fee for services hereunder shall be in the amount of insert dollar amount, percentage of purchase price, or other method of determining firm's compensation for each type of property the buyer may purchase, such as resale, new construction, land, lot, or unrepresented seller. Do not insert NA or a zero. Okay. We've disclosed to you who represents whom in a real estate transaction. We've explained to you the different types of agency relationships. We've given you a disclosure. We've asked you to sign in. Now we're asking you to enter into an exclusive, so we go together now, right? So remember, I put a disclosure on it, and now we go together. We're in a whole full-fledged relationship now. We can break up. Sometimes some breakups are prettier than others, but, I'll let you go if you really want to go. But we'll talk about that at a different place and time. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're talking about entering into an agency agreement, and then we're talking about compensation. How do I get paid? How does my firm get paid? Because my firm is then in turn going to compensate me. We might be on some kind of split, but I'm the owner, so I'm kind of like, I'm taking all. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, agents typically, the firm receives compensation and they share it with the agent. You're on a split, you're 1099, you're 100% commission, right? You're not getting a paycheck, you're not getting benefits or anything else. You are not an employee, you're an independent contractor, okay? They're not even taking the taxes out for you. You got to do that too, and you got to pay self-employment taxes. All right, so it's real fun over here, right? We make money, we spend a lot of money, and we got to share a lot of money. All righty, so let's talk about this. Firm shall seek the fee from a cooperating listing firm through the listing firm's offer of compensation in MLS or otherwise. So let's talk about this, or otherwise. I got to take a sip of water on this one. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so remember earlier, we talked about working with real estate agents disclosure. We talked about agency relationships. We talked about entering into a buyer agency agreement, an exclusive buyer agency agreement. Now we're talking about compensation, and that we first shall seek our fee from cooperating listing firm. So currently, the way it is today, the cooperating listing firm will enter in what that compensation is in MLS, and that compensation is displayed in a very transparent, open way to the public through MLS syndication or syndicated data that goes to all of these websites. Well, now we're talking about excluding this information, right? And this is supposed to be something that is going to, here we go. Let's see what ChatGPT had to say about this. Consumer empowerment. That's what the lingo that's being used, or what it's, one of the purposes it's supposed to serve is consumer empowerment, right? So that if we're not displaying this information in MLS and we don't know what it is, that we're going to show you all the properties that, fits maybe your needs or what it is that you're looking for. And there's no way for anybody to base what they show you on what that compensation is. So it's twofold. One, right? it removes that transparency from the buyer. So now you can't see what it's being offered up front. We have to find that information out, and we also have to disclose it to you. But also, on the other hand, the flip side of the characters that may not have shown you all the properties because they wanted to show you the ones that had the highest compensation, which is not something that I feel like any realtor especially should be doing because it's just unethical, right? So, but they want to put some guardrails around that, right? And I get that. I think there are better ways that we can accomplish that, but that's one of the ways, by decoupling, by no longer allowing that compensation to be shared in MLS. But the way it's currently written in our agency agreement says in MLS or otherwise. So this information could be communicated in another way outside of MLS, which if we take it out of MLS the way that they're saying that they want us to, then we just be going with whatever the otherwise was. What was the otherwise, right? The other ways in which that information could have been shared. So let's just scratch out where it says in MLS. And we're back to essentially the same place where we are right now. And we've got all this going on around things that already are pretty much covered. But we're leveling the playing field, and we want to make some changes because there is room for improvement. I won't deny that. Alrighty. So it says, or from the seller, if there is no listing firm and buyer agrees that firm shall be entitled to receive same in consideration for firm services hereunder. And then number 2 says, if buyer purchases property where the compensation offered by the listing firm and or seller is less than the fee, because remember up here, we're telling you what our fee is. So let's just say our fee is $100. Okay. My fee is $100. Okay. First, I'm going to seek it from the cooperating listing firm through the listing firm's offer of compensation in MLS or otherwise. So whatever they communicated, however they communicated it, I'm going to seek them first. Okay. I'm charging $100, and hey, Mr. Seller or other firm, you want to share with me, or seller, you want to pay me directly, that's fine. But let's move on. Okay. So it says, if less than the fee or where no compensation is offered by either the listing firm or the seller, buyer and firm agree that buyer will pay the difference between the fee and the compensation offered unless prohibited by law. Okay, so my fee is $100. The seller has communicated however they communicated it. I'm going to pay $50. And I'm like, okay, buyer, well, you got to pay me the other $50. Or maybe I'm okay with $50. And I'm like, okay, you know what, buyer, we're good. I don't need that other $50 from you. But I told you up front and I communicated to you that my fee is $100. And I'm going to try to get it from the seller first or the cooperating listing firm. And if they're not paying it, or if they're not paying all of it, I'm going to be looking you for the remainder. We're already doing this. So I would love for someone to explain to me how this is new. Because if I take you back to that other page, it says, agree to enact a new rule that will require MLS participants work with buyers to enter into written agreements with their buyers. We've been doing this for quite a while. So I don't know how that's new, but maybe it's new for some states. Okay. Maybe it's just not nationwide because NAR is the National Association of Realtors. Okay. So let's read a little bit further. So it says, unless prohibited by law, firm will timely inform buyer if compensation offered is less than expected. Per federal regulations, a buyer obtaining a VA loan is not permitted to pay a brokerage fee or commission in connection with the services of a buyer agent, though use of a buyer agent is permitted. Firm may seek compensation pursuant to paragraph 4B1 or I if buyer is seeking a VA loan. And I'm going to go ahead and read the third part of this. In addition, if additional compensation, incentives, bonuses, rebate, and or other valuable consideration, I don't know why I'm getting choked up. Probably because my brain is not registering what we're changing here. Additional compensation is offered through the MLS or otherwise. Buyer will be will permit the firm to receive it in addition to the fee. Firm shall timely disclose the promise or exception of receiving any such additional compensation and confirm the disclosure in writing. Okay. So sometimes there may be additional incentives or prizes or things like that that we may be offered. You see it a lot in new construction or builder incentives where the builder may have a realtor referral program or some type of incentive where, okay, hey, we're going to reward you. You've had 4 clients that have purchased homes with us today, and we want to recognize you, and we're going to offer you this additional rebate, other thing, this purse, right? This iPad, this whatever it is. And that we're going to disclose to the buyer that there was additional compensation. This is what it was. And this is what it was in the form of. So these things are already in our buyer agency agreement. And it goes on and on about the compensation shall be deemed earned under any of the following circumstances, right? During the term of the agreement. So this explains a lot. This whole entire section, paragraph 4, A, B, C, D, and E, talks about all the different terms of the compensation portion of the buyer agency agreement. So this is where some things don't necessarily make sense to me, and why I think in North Carolina things may be a little bit smoother than they may be in other parts of the country. But typically my process is upon introduction, if you attend my homebuyer class, I've read you my real estate Miranda rights, right? And I've displayed it on the screen. So I actually have the imagery of the stop sign, me verbally saying it, and then I display the actual form. Okay, so that's the first time you're going to see it if you attend one of my classes. After you attend my class, you have the opportunity to book a one-on-one initial conversation with me. We have an initial conversation. I will remind you of the working with real estate agents disclosure. I will talk to you about what it looks like to partner with me. And then we may take that to the next level of an initial consultation where we've decided to partner together, to work together as a team. So now we are solidifying our relationship and we are entering to an exclusive buyer agency agreement, and we're going to have a full-fledged initial consultation either via Zoom or in person. You're going to be able to see my face and look into my eyes, and we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about buyer agency, and I'm going to send you all the documents that I need for you to review, read, sign, ask me questions if you need to ask me questions. And we're going to talk about the compensation part. We're going to talk about what my fee is. We're going to talk about how we're going to handle it if the seller or listing firm, cooperating firm isn't paying my full fee, and how that is going to be handled. And you have the opportunity to decide if you want to move forward, if you want to try to negotiate that fee with me, or whatever it is. So we are already doing that every single day. In addition to that, every house you look at on any website that is sharing syndicated data is going to tell you what the compensation is. So you will know it before you even look at a house. And then I'm going to tell you, hey, remember we talked about my fee is $500, and this house that we're going to look at, the compensation is $300. You still want to look at it? What if the seller is not willing to pay more? Are you okay with that? Or whatever it is. We're just going to have open, honest, transparent conversations. And I feel like as long as you're having conversations and you're communicating, that it doesn't leave room for anything to be going on behind the scenes that is taken advantage of, or putting a buyer at a disadvantage. So I'm very, very curious to see how this all is going to flesh out and what the changes will be, and how we're going to even discover what the compensation is. So I'm thinking, in a world where it's not an MLS, is it a phone call? Is it once you are actually seriously interested in a property? Now we're going to find out, which I feel like that's a little late to be finding out what compensation is being offered. I kind of liked it being transparently displayed up front on the syndicated websites and in MLS and in documents that I can print out that show what my compensation is. But if they change that, what is that going to look like? And how is that going to benefit both buyers and agents? And I think that the general public, it's time that we really have more open, honest conversations about money and about compensation, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions and misinformation about how real estate agents get paid. And I think the general consensus is that we just make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and we do very little work, which is the furthest thing from the truth. And I will tell you, I've got my license in 1997, and every single time that I've said I've seen it all. Now, I haven't been in the business consecutively all those years as a full-time real estate agent because I consider myself a boomerang agent. So I've been a part of two of the most historical markets in the entire history of history. The crash in 2008, and then that whole boom of COVID and, the industry or record-breaking low interest rates. So I've seen pretty much every market, and I've been actively engaged in two of the most historical. And I tell you, I have never seen an identical real estate transaction. There's always some nuance. There's always something different, something that's going to come up, that's going to be a challenge, that's going to be a roadblock. Transactions fall apart 500 times before they actually come together. We just make it look easy because we're good at what we do, and we're passionate about what we do, and we love what we do. And then we post the pretty stuff on social media. You see the pretty stuff on television, and reality TV is the furthest from reality that you will ever see, as far as what the day in the life is truly of a typical real estate agent working with, the average buyer. So from that perspective, I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to just kind of take the veil off of the mystery behind real estate, so that people really can understand and see how hard we work and what all is really at stake. That you have someone that is working for you almost 24 hours, essentially, right? We wake up, with you on our minds, and we're researching, and we're trying to make sure that everything is perfect and that you're getting the most value and that you're treated fairly, right? And that you're fully informed. Like, my goal is always to educate and empower my clients to make the most informed decisions possible. It's not my job to tell you what to do. It's not my job to convince you to do what I want you to do, or what's convenient for me, or what's going to be something that's going to get me money, or right, that's going to be a income producing opportunity for me, right? I don't do this for free. I'm not a volunteer. I'm not a nonprofit, but I'm also someone that's an advocate of helping people get into homes who want to be into homes, especially the underdog, or the people who think that I can't get into a home for whatever reason, because of income, because of access to funding, down payment, closing costs, all the things. And so I think that if you really understood the blood, sweat, and tears that we really put into this, there will be greater appreciation for what we truly do on a daily basis, because it is never ending. And sometimes we could work months and months with a client and never make one dime. And I think that just goes people, it's just like an afterthought, that literally I could show up for you. I could answer the phone for you. I could research for you. I could respond to your emails for you. I can negotiate for you. I can help make sure that you have all the information that you need to make informed decisions, right? I can advocate for you. I can try to remove all the roadblocks and obstacles and things that are going to come our way throughout this transaction, which can be a lot of stress. And I'm doing this essentially for $0, right? For free. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 12-month period, I might actually get a paycheck. And there aren't too many other industries where you can work that hard. I really don't know of any where you could work that hard and work that many days and hours and potentially never make one dime. And then we're expected to do all these other things at the same time. And then people treat us like we're all rich, right? And we're all millionaires and we're all, celebrities, because that's just not the reality. And so I think this is going to open the door for that conversation for people to really understand that that's not how it is. Being a real estate agent isn't all just glamour and making tons and tons of money. And then on top of that, we spend a lot of money because we have a lot of fees. And also we're all self-employed. So every single real estate agent is a whole entire business. They are every position in that company for the most part, right? You are the cleanup crew, the janitor, you are the secretary, you're the marketing person, you're the social media manager, you are the agent, you're the negotiator, the contract, writer, and you're the person that's showing the homes, you're driving, you're putting wear and tear on your car, your brain space, taking time away from your family, your friends, your pets, whatever. And you're doing all of this with the hopes that at the end of the day, you might get paid. I think that is remarkable for someone to do that for other people, and then to have people treat us like we're always just out here money grabbing. So now I'm getting on a soapbox, because you know what? That's a hot button, because I feel like we don't deserve it, and we work way too hard, and we do a lot because we care a lot for a lot of people. And then people think we're just these greedy money grabbing people that, are living the high life. And that's just simply not true. This is our job. This is the career that we chose, but also we are independent business owners. We are full-fledged businesses, and we have all the expenses associated with running a business. So not only do we risk not getting paid after working for weeks or months for someone, we also have to pay higher taxes as self-employed individuals. And there's a lot of risk associated with this work. And we have dues, we have, fees, and then we have splits, and we're sharing money with, our firms and our brokers and our teams. And so you're counting all our dollars, but you really don't know what you're counting. So let's be fair. Let's be reasonable. But most of all, let's be open, honest, and transparent with one another, because I think that's where we all win. I think that in real estate, one of the things that I never understand is that I feel like there's this sense that there has to be a winner and a loser. Like the buyer has to either win and the seller, is the one that kind of, got, undercut, or the seller is the winner and the buyer, got undercut. And I think that there's really a middle ground, that you have something over here that I want or I need that's going to benefit me and or my family. And this is the value of that thing, right? Of that house. This is what the market is saying. And we can have a conversation about how we can make this make sense for everybody involved. And I know in some ways, some business people will be like, no, there's always got to be, somebody, you got to negotiate and you got to do this. And I feel like negotiating is communicating. I think that's all negotiating is. It's not a winner and a loser. I think it's communication. And then trying to be as fair as you possibly can, right? Nobody wants to be taken advantage of, and nobody wants to lose, especially when it involves probably the largest transaction most of us will make in our lifetime. So I think that we all probably need to maybe do a whole collective woosah, because we've been through a lot, right? Especially coming out of COVID and coming out of that market where everything was just complete chaos. And now I guess this is the calm after the storm, and people are feeling like, I don't think I like that. That wasn't fair. And this happened to me and that happened to me. Well, it kind of happened to all of us. And so let's just see where we go from here. And hopefully we'll all come out winners, right? I think we can all win, actually. So that is my spiel. That's my 2 cents. And I hope you like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try my best to provide more content, but I really wanted to talk about this topic. And I think at the beginning I said I wanted to share just a few things, as if this video was going to be 5 or 10 minutes and it's 40 minutes. But I felt like that was necessary to go through that exercise and to show you, because I think sometimes you just got to see it. You can hear, you can read articles, but you can read these documents and you can see what they say, and you can see how we've been practicing in North Carolina, how we currently practice today. But it'll be interesting to see what changes, how it changes, and how it's going to impact all of us. All right, guys, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.